Hey beautiful souls, welcome back to our channel where we dive deep into the sacred mysteries of love, relationships and God's perfect plan for your heart. I want you to take a deep breath right now because what I'm about to share with you today is going to absolutely transform how you see that person who's been on your mind. You know exactly who I'm talking about, that person who's been radio silent. Since you decided to create some space, that person who might be posting cryptic messages on social media or acting like they've completely moved on, that person who seems angry, distant, or even hostile toward you now, here's what I need you to understand right from the start. Their silence isn't indifference. Their anger isn't hatred, and their distance isn't proof they don't care. In fact, it's often the complete opposite. Before we dive into these life-changing revelations, I want to take a moment to appreciate those of you who have been supporting this channel with your super thanks. Your generosity doesn't go unnoticed, and it's because of your support that we can continue bringing you these powerful, life-changing messages that God places on my heart to share. If you're someone who's been touched by our content and you feel led to support our mission, that super thanks button is a beautiful way to sow into this ministry and help us reach more hearts that need healing. Now, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because over the next 45 minutes, I'm going to reveal 9 profound truths that will completely shift your perspective on love, communication, and the hidden emotions behind someone's apparent anger. This isn't just relationship advice, this is spiritual insight that comes from years of studying God's design for love and watching thousands of relationships transform when people understand these deeper truths. What you're about to learn today will give you the keys to understanding the heart behind the walls, the love behind the anger, and the desperate longing behind the silence. You're going to discover why cutting communication often triggers the deepest emotions, why anger is frequently a mask for overwhelming love, and how to navigate this season with wisdom, grace, and unshakable confidence in God's plan for your relationships. Every single point I'm about to share with you is backed by scripture, proven by psychology, and confirmed by the countless testimonies of people who thought they had lost someone forever, only to discover that love was working beneath the surface in ways they never imagined. So grab your favorite drink, find a comfortable spot, and prepare to have your mind blown and your heart encouraged. This message is going to change everything you thought you knew about love, loss, and the beautiful complexity of the human heart. Let's dive in. Number 1, their anger is actually proof. They're fighting their own heart. When someone gets angry after you cut communication, they're not angry because they don't care. They're angry because they care too much and they don't know what to do with all that love that has nowhere to go. Think about this for a moment. Indifference doesn't get angry. If someone truly didn't care about you, if your absence meant nothing to them, they would simply shrug their shoulders and move on without a second thought. But anger? Anger requires emotional investment. Anger means their heart is actively engaged, fighting against feelings they can't control or don't want to acknowledge. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 27:5 that better is open rebuke than hidden love. But sometimes people aren't ready to reveal that hidden love, so it comes out as frustration instead. When you cut communication, you essentially force them to confront their feelings without the comfort of your presence, without the security of knowing you're still there, without the familiar rhythm of your connection. That's terrifying for someone who loves you deeply. Their anger is their heart's way of protecting itself from the vulnerability of admitting how much you mean to them. It's easier to be mad at you than to face the crushing reality that they might have lost the person who makes their world make sense. This anger often manifests in different ways. Maybe they're posting things on social media that seem directed at you. Maybe they're telling mutual friends how fine they are without you. Or maybe they're throwing themselves into work, hobbies, or other relationships with an intensity that seems forced or of these behaviors are actually evidence that they're fighting an internal war between their pride and their heart. Their pride says, I don't need them. I'm better off alone. They don't deserve my energy. But their heart says, I miss them desperately. I can't imagine life without them. I would do anything to have them back. The anger you're seeing is the battlefield where these two forces are clashing. And here's what's beautiful about this. The fact that they're fighting so hard against their feelings means those feelings are incredibly powerful. You don't fight something that isn't threatening your peace. You don't get angry at someone who doesn't have the power to affect you. Their anger is actually a testament to your impact on their life, your significance in their heart, and the depth of connection you shared. When someone loves you deeply and you suddenly remove yourself from their life, it creates what psychologists call protest behavior. It's the same response you see in children when they're separated from their primary caregiver. First they cry, then they get angry, then they withdraw. But underneath all of that protest is attachment, is love, is a desperate desire for reconnection. The person who's angry at you right now is essentially a child whose favorite person just disappeared, and they don't know how to process that loss, except through anger. This is why understanding the true nature of their anger changes everything. Instead of seeing it as rejection, you can recognize it as evidence of love. Instead of interpreting it as hatred, you can understand it as fear. Instead of believing it means they don't want you, you can know it means they want you so much it hurts. God designed our hearts to form deep connections, and when those connections are suddenly severed, the pain is so intense that anger often becomes our only coping mechanism. But that anger isn't the end of the story. It's actually the beginning of a deeper understanding of love. Number 2, the silent treatment is their way of testing if you'll fight for them. Silence after you've cut. Communication isn't what it appears to be on the surface. What looks like indifference or moving on is actually one of the most vulnerable positions a person can put themselves in. When someone goes completely silent after you've created distance, they're essentially saying, if you want me, you're going to have to prove it. This isn't manipulation. This is self-protection mixed with hope. Think about it from their perspective. You've already shown them that you're willing to walk away, that you can survive without their daily presence in your life. That's both terrifying and impressive to them. Terrifying because it makes them feel replaceable, but impressive because it shows them your strength and independence. Now they're caught between two desires, the desire to reach out because they miss you desperately, and the desire to protect their heart from further rejection. So they choose silence, but it's not the silence of indifference. It's the silence of someone who's holding their breath, waiting to see what you'll do next. The Bible speaks about this in 1 Kings 19, when Elijah was waiting to hear from God. And God wasn't in the wind, the earthquake, or the fire. He was in the still, small voice. Sometimes the most profound communication happens in the silence, in the space between words, in what's not being said. Their silence is loaded with meaning, heavy with emotion, thick with unspoken love. They're watching your social media, even if they don't interact with it. They're asking mutual friends about you, even if they pretend they don't care. They're hoping you'll text, even though they're not texting you. They're living in a constant state of internal conflict between their pride that says don't reach out and their heart that says tell them you love them. This silent treatment is actually a form of communication. They're communicating their hurt, their fear, their love, and their hope all at once. They're saying, I'm hurt that you pulled away. I'm scared to be vulnerable again. I love you more than I know how to express. And I'm hoping you love me enough to bridge this gap. But here's what makes this even more beautiful. Their silence means they're giving you space to make a choice from a place of genuine desire rather than obligation. They could blow up your phone, show up at your door, or demand your attention. But instead, they're stepping back and essentially saying, if you want this connection, if you want me, then choose me freely. That's actually the most loving thing they could do, even though it doesn't feel loving to you right now. They're respecting your need for space while secretly hoping that space will make your heart grow fonder. They're giving you the gift of missing them, of realizing what your life feels like without their presence, of discovering whether this connection is something you truly value or something you were taking for granted. Their silence is also their way of testing the authenticity of your feelings. If you only reached out when it was easy, when they were readily available, when there was no risk involved, then maybe those feelings weren't as deep as they seemed. But if you're willing to break through their silence, if you're willing to pursue them even when they're not making it easy, if you're willing to fight for this connection, that tells them something profound about your heart. It tells them that you don't just want them when it's convenient, but that you want them enough to be uncomfortable, to be vulnerable, to risk rejection. And that's the kind of love worth waiting for, worth fighting for, worth keeping. Number 3, they're desperately hoping you'll make the first move back, behind every wall of anger, every cold shoulder, every "I'm fine without you" attitude. There's a heart that's secretly hoping you'll be brave enough to reach out first. This is one of the most beautiful and heartbreaking aspects of human nature. We build walls to protect ourselves, but then we desperately hope someone will love us enough to climb over them. When someone acts like they don't want to hear from you, 90% of the time, they're actually praying you'll contact them. They're just too scared, too hurt, or too proud to make the first move themselves. The person who seems the most closed off to you right now is often the one who needs your love the most. They're like a wounded animal that snaps when you try to help them, not because they don't want help, but because they're terrified of being hurt again. Jesus demonstrated this principle perfectly in his relationship with Peter. After Peter denied him 3 times, Jesus didn't wait for Peter to come crawling back with an elaborate apology. Instead, Jesus sought Peter out, made breakfast for him on the beach, and gave him the opportunity to declare his love 3 times, once for each denial. Jesus made the first move toward restoration because he understood that love sometimes means being the one who reaches across the divide. Your person is in their own version of Peter's shame spiral right now. They might feel like they've failed you, disappointed you, or pushed you too far. They might believe that you're better off without them, that they don't deserve another chance, or that reaching out would be selfish. But deep in their heart, they're hoping you'll be like Jesus was with Peter, willing to make the first move toward healing. They're hoping you'll see past their defensive behavior to the hurt. Underneath, they're hoping you'll love them enough to fight for the connection. Even when they're not making it easy, they're hoping you'll be brave enough to send that text, make that call, or show up at their door. Every day that passes without contact feels like confirmation to them that maybe they were right. Maybe you really are better off without them. Maybe this connection wasn't as special as they thought it was, but every day also contains the possibility that today might be the day you reach out. Today might be the day they hear your voice again. Today might be the day this painful season finally ends. They're living in a constant state of hope and fear. Hope that you'll contact them. Fear that you won't. Hope that you miss them. Fear that you've moved on. Hope that this is just a temporary separation. Fear that it's permanent. The beautiful thing about making the first move is that it often reveals just how much they've been hoping for it. That person who's been acting so cold and indifferent suddenly melts the moment they hear genuine love in your voice. That person who seemed to have moved on completely suddenly becomes emotional when they realize you still care. That person who appeared so strong and independent suddenly becomes vulnerable when they feel safe to let their guard down. Their relief at hearing from you again is often so overwhelming that all their walls crumble at once. And you get to see their heart in its raw, undefended state. You get to see how much they've actually been hurting, how much they've actually been missing you, how much they've actually been hoping for this moment. Making the first move doesn't make you weak. It makes you courageous. It doesn't mean you're chasing someone who doesn't want you. It means you're brave enough to love someone who's too scared to show you they want you. It doesn't mean you're settling for less. It means you're mature enough to see past someone's protective mechanisms to the love underneath, and more often than not, your courage to make the first move gives them permission to drop their defenses and love you the way they've been wanting to love you all along. Number 4. Every day of silence is them questioning if they were enough. One of the most devastating effects of cut communication is how it triggers someone's deepest insecurities about their worthiness of love. When you suddenly stop talking to someone who cares about you deeply, their mind doesn't go to logical places like maybe they need space or perhaps they're dealing with something personal. Instead, the heart goes straight to the most painful question: was I not enough? This is especially true if they've experienced abandonment, rejection, or loss in their past. Your silence becomes confirmation of every fear they've ever had about themselves, every doubt they've ever carried about their worthiness, every lie they've ever believed about their value. They start replaying every conversation, analyzing every interaction, searching for the moment when they apparently failed you, disappointed you, or pushed you away. They convince themselves that if they had been better, smarter, more attractive, more successful, more whatever, you never would have pulled back. The enemy loves to use silence as a weapon against our identity because silence leaves room for our imagination to fill in the blanks. And wounded hearts rarely imagine good things. They start believing that you saw something in them that made you realize they weren't worth your time, energy, or love. They begin to question everything that felt real between you. Maybe those deep conversations didn't mean as much to you as they did to them. Maybe those shared moments weren't as special as they thought. Maybe that connection they felt was one-sided all along. This is why understanding the impact of your silence is so crucial. That person isn't just missing you. They're wrestling with fundamental questions about their identity, their value, and their worthiness of love. Every day that passes without communication is another day they're telling themselves the story that they weren't enough to keep you interested, engaged, or committed to the connection. But here's what's beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. The very fact that they're questioning their worth means they placed incredible value on your opinion of them. You don't worry about being enough for someone who doesn't matter to you. You don't lose sleep over disappointing someone you don't care about. You don't replay conversations and analyze interactions with someone whose love doesn't mean anything to you. Their insecurity about being enough is actually proof of how much you mean to them, how deeply your opinion matters to them, how significantly your presence or absence affects their sense of self. This is both the responsibility and the privilege of being deeply loved by someone. Your words have the power to build them up or tear them down. Your presence has the power to make them feel valuable or worthless. Your attention has the power to confirm their worth or trigger their deepest fears. God designed us for connection, and when we're in relationship with someone who truly sees us, loves us, and values us, their perception of us becomes integrated into our perception of ourselves. This is why the Bible talks so much about speaking life over people, about using our words to encourage rather than destroy, about being mindful of the power we have to impact someone's heart. When you cut communication without explanation, without reassurance, without context, you're unknowingly activating every abandonment wound they've ever carried. You're triggering every insecurity they've ever battled. You're confirming every lie they've ever been told about their worthiness of love. And they're sitting there right now, probably scrolling through your social media, looking at your life continuing without them, wondering what was wrong with them that made you able to walk away so easily. They're probably seeing you laugh in photos and thinking, I guess they're happier without me. They're probably watching you succeed in different areas and thinking, I was probably just holding them back. They're probably observing your daily routine continuing normally and thinking, I guess I didn't matter as much as I thought I did. But what they don't understand is that sometimes the people we love the most are the ones we pull away from when we're struggling, confused, or overwhelmed. Sometimes we create distance, not because someone isn't enough, but because they mean so much to us that we're scared of messing it up. Sometimes we go silent not because we don't care, but because we care so much that we don't know how to express it properly. The person who's questioning if they were enough for you right now probably means more to you than you've ever told them. And your silence isn't confirmation that they're not enough. It's evidence that they matter so much to you that you're afraid of not being enough for them. Number 5, they're watching your every move on social media while pretending they don't care. Social media has added a completely new dimension to the pain of cut communication, and it's creating a level of torture that previous generations never had to endure. Right now, the person who seems to have disappeared from your life is probably checking your Instagram stories within minutes of you posting them. They're scrolling through your Facebook updates, analyzing your Twitter posts, and studying your LinkedIn activity like it's a sacred text that holds clues to your heart. But they're doing all of this while maintaining the facade that they don't care, that they've moved on, that your life no longer interests them. This creates an incredibly painful dynamic where they're more connected to your daily life than ever before, but they have no way to actually connect with you about any of it. They see you post a picture of your breakfast, and they remember how you used to eat together. They watch your workout videos, and they think about how proud they are of your dedication to your health. They read your inspirational quotes, and they wonder if you're going through something difficult. They see you out with friends, and they feel a mixture of happiness that you're not sitting at home miserable and jealousy that they're not part of that joy. Every story you post is like a little window into your world that they can look through but not enter. Every update you share is like a conversation they can overhear but not participate in. Every photo you upload is like a memory they can witness but not be part of. The Bible talks about this kind of longing in Song of Solomon 2:9, where it says, "My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag. Look, there he stands behind our wall, gazing through the windows, peering through the lattice." That's exactly what's happening right now. They're behind the wall of cut communication, but they're still gazing through the windows of your social media, trying to catch glimpses of your heart, your life, your world. And it's beautiful and tragic at the same time. It's beautiful because it means you matter so much to them that they can't resist staying connected to your life in whatever way they can. It's tragic because they're torturing themselves with proximity, without intimacy, with access without connection, with information without interaction. They're probably screenshotting your posts to look at them later when they're missing you. They're probably saving your stories before they disappear. They're probably showing your pictures to close friends while pretending they're just checking in on you. They see you post something funny, and they have to fight the urge to text you laughing emojis like they used to. They see you post something deep, and they want to start a conversation about it like they always did. They see you post something sad or stressful, and every fiber of their being wants to reach out and comfort you, support you, be there for you. But they can't, because you've cut communication, and they're trying to respect that boundary even though it's killing them. This is why social media can be both a blessing and a curse during periods of cut communication. It allows them to stay connected to your world when direct communication isn't happening, but it also amplifies their longing and makes the separation feel even more painful. They're living in a strange reality where they know what you had for lunch, but they don't know how you're really doing emotionally. They can see your face in photos, but they can't hear your voice. They can observe your activities, but they can't share in your experiences. What makes this even more complex is that they're probably carefully curating their own social media to send messages to you too. They might be posting things that they hope will make you realize what you're missing. They might be sharing quotes or songs that express feelings they can't say directly. They might be highlighting parts of their life to show you they're doing well without you, even though inside they're falling apart. Social media has turned the pain of separation into a 24/7 experience where you're both constantly aware of each other's lives but completely disconnected from each other's hearts. And the most heartbreaking part is that you're probably both doing the same thing, watching each other's lives through screens while desperately wishing you could just pick up the phone and talk. Number 6. Their heart is breaking. Every time they start to text you and then delete it. One of the most invisible forms of suffering that happens during cut communication is the constant internal battle of wanting to reach out but stopping yourself at the last second. Right now, that person probably has dozens of unsent messages to you saved in their drafts folder. They've typed out "I miss you" and deleted it. They've written long paragraphs explaining their feelings and erased them all. They've started with "Hey, how are you doing?" and decided it sounded too casual for how they really feel. They've composed "I'm sorry" messages and then convinced themselves they don't even know what they're sorry for. Every day, multiple times a day, they're having conversations with you in their head and then stopping themselves from making those conversations real. Their thumb hovers over the send button dozens of times, and each time they choose not to press it, a little piece of their heart breaks. This is one of the cruelest forms of self-torture that love can create. The constant tension between wanting to express your feelings and being afraid of the consequences of that expression. They want to tell you they love you, but they're afraid you'll reject them. They want to tell you they miss you, but they're afraid you'll think they're weak. They want to tell you they're sorry, but they're afraid you won't forgive them. They want to tell you they're thinking about you, but they're afraid you'll think they're desperate. So they write the messages and delete them, over and over again, trapped in an endless cycle of hope and fear. The Bible speaks to this in Romans 8:26 when it says, "In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit Himself intercedes for us through wordless groans." Sometimes love is so deep, so overwhelming, so complex that we literally don't know how to put it into words. Sometimes our feelings are so intense that any attempt to capture them in a text message feels inadequate, insufficient, or potentially damaging. So we start and stop, write and delete, hope and hesitate, caught between the desire to communicate and the fear of miscommunication. They probably have screenshots of things you've posted that they wanted to respond to but didn't. They probably have voice messages they recorded for you but never sent. They probably have gifts they wanted to order for you but didn't because they weren't sure if you'd want to receive them. Every gesture of love they stop themselves from making is another way their heart breaks. Every expression of caring they talk themselves out of is another layer of pain they add to their already heavy load. What makes this even more painful is that they're probably interpreting your silence as confirmation that they're right not to reach out. They're thinking, if they wanted to hear from me, they would have contacted me by now. They don't realize that you might be going through the exact same internal battle they are. You might be drafting and deleting messages to them too. You might be starting to call them and hanging up before it rings. You might be writing their name and phone number and then closing your contacts without pressing call. The tragic irony is that you're probably both sitting there wanting the same thing, connection, conversation, closure, or reconciliation, but you're both too scared to make the first move. You're both drowning in unspoken words, unexpressed feelings, and unused opportunities for healing. The deleted messages represent more than just communication. They represent hope being born and killed over and over again. Every time they start to write to you, hope rises in their chest. Maybe today is the day they'll be brave enough to reach out. Maybe today is the day they'll find the right words. Maybe today is the day this painful silence finally ends. But then fear creeps in, doubt takes over, and they delete the message, killing that hope until it rises again the next time they see your name in their phone. This cycle is exhausting, heartbreaking, and completely invisible to you. You have no idea how many times they've almost contacted you. You don't know how close they've come to breaking their own silence. You can't see the evidence of their love for you that exists in draft folders and deleted messages. But it's there, constant and persistent, a testimony to feelings that are too big for words and too scared to be shared. Number 7. Every person they meet gets compared to you and falls short. When someone loves you deeply and you cut communication, you don't just disappear from their daily life, you become the standard by which they measure every other person they encounter. This is one of the most powerful testimonies to the depth of their feelings for you, and it's something they might not even fully realize is happening. They go on dates with other people and spend the entire time thinking about how that person doesn't make them laugh the way you do. They have conversations with friends and notice how none of them understand them the way you did. They meet new people at work, at social events, at the gym, and unconsciously, they're holding them up against the memory of you and finding them lacking in comparison. It's not that these other people aren't wonderful in their own right. It's that they're not you, and their heart has decided that you are the standard of what connection, chemistry, and compatibility should feel like. This comparison trap is both a blessing and a curse for them. It's a blessing because it confirms what they probably already knew deep down, that what they had with you was special, rare, and irreplaceable. It's a curse because it makes it almost impossible for them to fully invest in new connections when their heart keeps pointing back to what they had with you. The Bible talks about this in Ecclesiastes 3:11, where it says God has set eternity in the human heart. Sometimes, when we experience a deep connection with someone, it feels eternal, timeless, like a glimpse of something divine and perfect. And once you've tasted that kind of connection, everything else feels shallow in comparison. They might go to dinner with someone new and think, this person is nice, but they don't challenge me intellectually the way they did. They might have physical attraction to someone else but think, this feels good, but it doesn't have the emotional depth that I had with them. They might meet someone who shares their interests but think, we have things in common, but we don't have that effortless understanding that I had with them. What's happening is that you've become their reference point for what love should feel, like what connection should look like, what partnership should be. And that's simultaneously the highest compliment they could give you and the heaviest burden they could carry. It's a compliment because it means you didn't just occupy space in their life. You transformed their understanding of what was possible in relationship. You didn't just make them happy. You showed them what happiness could actually feel like. You didn't just love them. You redefined what love meant to them. But it's also a burden because it makes it incredibly difficult for them to move forward with anyone else. They're not consciously trying to hold on to the past or sabotage their future. They're just discovering that some connections leave such a profound imprint on your heart that they become the template for all future connections. Every conversation they have gets filtered through. They used to say things that made me think for hours afterward. Every laugh they share gets measured against, they had this way of making me laugh until my stomach hurt. Every moment of understanding gets compared to, they just got me without me having to explain myself. This comparison doesn't make them impossible to please or unrealistic in their expectations. It makes them deeply aware of what they've lost and desperately hopeful that they might get it back. They're not looking for someone better than you. They're looking for you. They're not trying to replace what they had with you. They're trying to recreate it, and that's an impossible task because what they had with you was unique to the specific combination of your hearts, your histories, your chemistry, your timing. This is why so many people who have experienced deep love find it difficult to settle for surface-level connections afterward. It's not that they're being picky or holding unreasonable standards. It's that they've experienced something transcendent, and their soul knows the difference between connection and compatibility, between attraction and chemistry, between liking someone and loving them with your whole heart. Right now, they're probably frustrating their friends and family who keep trying to set them up with perfect people who look great on paper but feel empty in person. They're probably disappointing potential partners who can sense that their heart isn't fully available even when they're trying to be present. They're probably confusing themselves because they know logically that they should move on, but emotionally they're still completely tethered to you and the connection you shared. Number 8, they pray for you every night and ask God to bring you back. If the person you've cut communication with has any faith at all, you need to know that you're probably being lifted up in prayer more consistently than you've ever been in your life. Every night before they go to sleep, your name is on their lips as they talk to God about you. Every morning when they wake up, you're one of the first thoughts that crosses their mind and gets turned into a prayer. Throughout the day, when something reminds them of you, that memory becomes a conversation with heaven about your well-being, your happiness, your heart. This is one of the most beautiful and sacred aspects of loving someone deeply. When you can't reach them directly, you reach them through prayer. When you can't speak to their heart, you speak to God about their heart. When you can't be present in their life, you ask God to be present in their life in ways you never could be. Their prayers for you probably sound something like this: God, please let them know how much they mean to me, even though I can't tell them myself right now. Please protect their heart and help them heal from whatever they're going through. Please bring peace to their mind and comfort to their spirit during this difficult time. Please help them remember the good times we shared and not just focus on whatever went wrong. Please soften both of our hearts toward each other and show us the path back to connection. Please let them feel loved today, even if they can't feel it from me right now. These prayers are coming from the deepest place in their heart, the place where their love for you lives beyond hurt, beyond pride, beyond fear. When they pray for you, they're accessing the purest form of their feelings: love without agenda, care without expectation, blessing without requirement of reciprocation. The Bible tells us in 1 Samuel 12:23 that far be it from me that I should sin against the Lord by ceasing to pray for you. For someone who loves you deeply, not praying for you would feel like a betrayal of their own heart and a violation of their relationship with God. They might be angry with you, hurt by you, confused by you, but they can't stop loving you enough to stop praying for you. Prayer becomes their way of staying connected to you when all other forms of connection have been cut off. It's their way of continuing to pour love into your life even when they can't do it directly. It's their way of trusting God with both your heart and theirs when the situation feels too complicated for human wisdom to navigate. And here's what's powerful about this: when someone is praying for you consistently with genuine love and faith, those prayers have real impact in the spiritual realm. You might be feeling inexplicably peaceful during this time of separation and not realize it's because someone is asking God to give you peace. You might be experiencing unexpected breakthrough or favor in other areas of your life and not know it's connected to someone interceding for your well-being. You might be sensing God's presence more strongly than usual and be unaware that it's partially in response to someone else's prayers for your spiritual growth and blessing. Their prayers for you are probably also prayers for themselves, for wisdom to know how to love you well, for strength to endure this season of separation, for faith to believe that God can heal whatever has been broken between you. They're asking God to work in both of your hearts simultaneously, to prepare you both for whatever comes next, whether that's reconciliation or closure or something entirely different. The beautiful thing about prayer is that it changes the person doing the praying as much as it impacts the person being prayed for. Every time they pray for you, their heart grows a little more compassionate, a little more forgiving, a little more surrendered to God's plan. Every time they lift you up to heaven, they're reminded that you belong to God first and to them second. And that helps them hold you with open hands instead of clenched fists. Every time they ask God to bless you, they're choosing love over hurt, hope over fear, faith over bitterness. So even if you never hear from them again, even if this season of cut communication becomes permanent separation, you are being loved. Through prayer, in ways that are touching your life, whether you realize it or not. Number 9, deep down they know this separation is temporary because real love never dies. There's something profound happening in the depths of their spirit that they might not even be consciously aware of yet. But it's there, steady and unshakable, like bedrock beneath shifting sand. Despite all the pain, despite all the anger, despite all the silence and confusion and heartbreak, there's a part of their soul that simply refuses to believe this is the end of your story together. This isn't denial or wishful thinking or desperate hope. This is spiritual knowing, divine intuition, the kind of certainty that comes from somewhere beyond human logic and understanding. The Bible tells us in 1 Corinthians 13:8 that love never fails, and there's something in their spirit that's holding on to that truth even when their mind is telling them to give up, even when their heart is telling them to protect itself, even when their pride is telling them to move on. Deep in their core, they know that what you shared wasn't just attraction, wasn't just compatibility, wasn't just good timing. It was something eternal touching time, something infinite expressing itself in finite form, something divinely orchestrated that human circumstances can't ultimately destroy. They might not be able to articulate this knowing yet. They might not even be fully conscious of it. But it's there in the way they can't seem to close the door completely on you, in the way they keep their hearts slightly open despite all their attempts to shut it down, in the way they find themselves making space for you in their future plans, even when logic says they shouldn't. This spiritual knowing manifests in small but significant ways throughout their daily life. They can't bring themselves to delete your pictures, not because they're trying to hold on to the past, but because something inside them says those memories are part of an ongoing story, not a finished chapter. They can't bring themselves to return the gifts you gave them or throw away the letters you wrote, not because they're being sentimental, but because their spirit recognizes these as sacred artifacts of a love that transcends temporary separation. They find themselves automatically including you in their prayers for the future, asking God to bless us instead of me, speaking about their dreams in plural form, even when they're technically single right now. When people ask them about dating other people, something inside them recoils not just from hurt or loyalty, but from a deep knowing that they're still spiritually connected to you in ways that make other romantic connections feel like betrayal of something sacred. They might even surprise themselves with this certainty. Their logical mind might argue with it, their wounded heart might resist it, their well-meaning friends might challenge it, but their spirit remains unmoved in its conviction that this separation is a season, not a conclusion. This knowing doesn't make the current pain any less real or valid. It doesn't minimize the difficulty of this season or the genuine grief they're experiencing over the loss of daily connection with you, but it does provide a foundation of hope that helps them endure what would otherwise be unbearable. It gives them the strength to continue believing in love when everything around them seems to argue against it. It helps them hold space for miracle, for restoration, for God's ability to heal what seems irreparably broken. This spiritual certainty often intensifies during their quiet moments, during prayer, during meditation, during those still small hours of the night when the noise of the world fades and they can hear the deeper truths their spirit is speaking. In those moments, the knowing becomes so strong it's almost tangible. This isn't over. This love is too real to die. This connection is too divinely orchestrated to end in permanent separation. They might even find themselves having conversations with you in their spirit, not the desperate pleading kind, but the peaceful, Confident kind that comes from knowing that spiritual connection transcends physical communication. They're sending you love through realms beyond the physical, trusting that your soul can feel their heart even when your mind doesn't know it's happening. This knowing also shows up in how they respond to well-meaning advice from others. When friends tell them to move on or get over it or find someone better, something inside them gently but firmly resists, not from stubbornness, but from spiritual wisdom that recognizes the difference between ordinary relationships and soul connections. They might not argue with these friends, might even nod along to keep peace, but internally they're holding on to something deeper than human counsel, something that comes from divine understanding of love's eternal nature. The beautiful thing about this spiritual knowing is that it's usually mutual, even if neither of you is consciously aware of it. If they're feeling this deep certainty that your separation is temporary, there's a good chance you're feeling it too, perhaps in different ways, perhaps buried under layers of hurt or fear or confusion, but present nonetheless. This is why timing becomes so crucial in these divinely orchestrated love stories. Both hearts need to reach the place where they can receive what God is trying to give them through each other, where they can love from wholeness instead of woundedness, where they can commit from strength instead of need. The separation isn't punishment, it's preparation. Number 10, they're becoming the person they think you deserve while you're apart. One of the most beautiful and transformative things that happens during periods of cut communication is the way deep love motivates genuine growth and self-improvement, even in the midst of pain. Right now, while you're apart, they're probably engaged in the most intensive season of personal development they've experienced in years, all because losing you has made them acutely aware of the areas where they want to become better, stronger, more worthy of the kind of love you represent. This isn't about changing who they are at their core. It's about becoming the fullest, most healed, most mature version of themselves, the version they believe would be capable of loving you the way you deserve to be loved. They're looking at themselves in the mirror with new eyes, asking hard questions they might have avoided before. What patterns in my life contributed to this separation? What wounds am I carrying that affected my ability to love well? What fears or insecurities prevented me from being fully present in our connection? And instead of drowning in shame or self-condemnation over these realizations, they're channeling their love for you into fuel for transformation. Every day they wake up with intention to become better, not because they think they were fundamentally flawed, but because they recognize that love this deep deserves the best version of themselves. If they struggled with communication, they're learning how to express their feelings more clearly and vulnerably. If they battled with emotional availability, they're doing the inner work to heal whatever walls they built around their heart. If they had issues with consistency or reliability, they're developing the discipline and character that would make them a safe harbor for your heart. If they wrestled with their own insecurities or jealousy, they're building the self-confidence and trust that would allow them to love you freely without fear. This process is both painful and beautiful because it requires them to face parts of themselves they might have been avoiding. But they're willing to do it because their love for you is greater than their comfort with staying the same. The Bible speaks to this in 1 Corinthians 13:11. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. Sometimes love calls us to grow up in ways we've been avoiding, to mature in areas where we've been stuck, to heal wounds we've been ignoring. And the most powerful motivation for this growth isn't self-improvement for its own sake. It's love for someone who deserves the best version of who we can become. They're probably reading books they never would have picked up before, books about emotional intelligence, healthy communication, spiritual growth, relationship skills. They're having conversations with mentors, counselors, or wise friends about patterns they want to break and strengths they want to develop. They're paying attention to their triggers and reactions in ways they never did before, asking, how can I respond differently? How can I love better? How can I show up more fully? They're developing new habits, new routines, new ways of thinking and being that align with the person they want to be when you see them again. This transformation isn't happening because they think they weren't good enough before. It's happening because they love you enough to want to offer you the very best of themselves. They're not trying to become someone else. They're trying to become more themselves, more healed, more whole, more capable of the kind of love they feel for you. What makes this even more powerful is that this growth is sustainable because it's motivated by love rather than fear, by inspiration rather than desperation, by desire to give rather than need to get. They're not changing to manipulate you into coming back. They're changing because loving you has awakened them to possibilities within themselves they didn't know existed. The separation has given them the space and motivation to address things they might have put off indefinitely if life had continued as normal. Sometimes we need the pain of potentially losing someone precious to motivate us to do the inner work we've been avoiding. They're also developing a deeper relationship with God during this time, recognizing that becoming the person you deserve requires spiritual growth, divine help, character development that can only come from surrendering their heart to their Creator. They're praying not just for you to come back, but for wisdom to love better, strength to heal completely, grace to forgive fully, and faith to trust God's timing for restoration. By the time you see them again, whether that's in weeks, months, or years, they will be a fundamentally different person, not different in essence, but different in maturity, in healing, in their capacity to love well. And here's what's beautiful. You're probably going through your own version of this transformation during this same season, being shaped and molded and prepared by God for whatever comes next. This separation isn't just about you both missing each other. It's about you both becoming people who can receive and give the kind of love you're capable of sharing when you're at your best. Beautiful souls, as we come to the end of this deep dive into the hidden world of love behind walls, I want you to take a moment to let everything we've discussed settle into your spirit. If you're the one who cut communication, I hope you now understand the profound impact of your silence on someone who loves you deeply. Their anger isn't hatred, it's love with nowhere to go. Their silence isn't indifference, it's hope mixed with fear. Their apparent moving on isn't evidence they don't care. It's evidence they're trying to protect a heart that belongs to you. And if you're the one who's been cut off, I hope you now recognize that your love isn't lost, isn't wasted, isn't forgotten. It's working in ways you can't see, in prayers you don't hear, in growth you're not witnessing, in hope that refuses to die even when logic says it should. God's timing is perfect even when it doesn't feel like it. His plans are good, even when they're painful. His love stories are worth waiting for, even when the waiting feels impossible. Sometimes the greatest love stories require seasons of separation, not as punishment, but as preparation. Not as endings, but as beginnings. Not as evidence that love has failed, but as proof that love is so powerful it's worth fighting for, growing for, changing for, waiting for. Your love story isn't over. This chapter might be painful, but it's not the final chapter. Keep praying, keep growing, keep believing, and most importantly, keep loving. Even from a distance, even through silence, even when it hurts. God sees it all, He's working in it all, and He will make beauty from these ashes in His perfect timing. I love you, God loves you, and yes, they still love you too, desperately and completely, even if they can't show you right now. Until next time, keep your heart open and your faith strong.